Let's make sure that everything is muted. I always like to have, there's always like a 5 to 10 second delay on all these platforms. But I like to have tabs open for my live streams.
Let's make sure that everything is...
There, there's an example. Facebook did not auto mute.
Let's make sure that everything...
Neither did YouTube. Zoinks. Let's see if Twitch did or not. All right, so Twitch did automatically, but the other two platforms, nope. Oh my gosh! All right, yeah. So I like to have my have it open in have my streams open in the various platforms that I broadcast to in the event that they strike down my stream or channel, and so that I have an idea and don't go rambling on for hours on end thinking that we're still live.
That makes sense.
Welcome to WyzGyz Entertainment. This is your host, Wyman. Oh my gosh, it seems like virtually every one of my streams nowadays, it seems I'm talking about behind the scenes stuff at the very beginning before I get around to the intro. Welcome everybody to WyzGyz Entertainment. This is your host, Wyman. We are joined today by a very special guest, LadyGravemaster.
Hello.
How are you?
I am doing well, thank you. How's your day been going?
Fascinating. So far so good. Fun times. Mm-hmm. I'm awake. I'm alive another day, so that's a blessing.
In this day and age, it's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, ain't it the truth? And plus, you're on my channel, so that's an honor unto itself.
Oh, well, thank you. The honor's mine. I appreciate it.
I see you in a lot of streams and stuff, and you're always on point, and you've got knowledge to back up all your statements, and that's impressive and respectful. It means a lot.
Thank you. I try. I definitely, I know just enough to know that I don't know enough.
Which is like contrary to a lot of this whacked out world who says, I stand before you to stand behind you to tell you something I know nothing about.
That is, yes, very, very much the case of late, for sure.
Yeah, craziness, I say.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself, like your origin story, if you will?
Sure. I mean, I'm just a northern small town girl, grew up, went off to the Marine Corps and got some great life experience there, learned a lot, figured out that I didn't have everything figured out. Everybody coming out of high school, you think you know everything and you're going to conquer the world and everything's just going to go your way, and that's so far from the truth that it's a bit hilarious. And I learned pretty quick how to be humble, and that it definitely shouldn't all be about me. And it's been good since then. And then left active duty, went into the reserves, and now I'm back in the Midwest, just raising a family and trying to get our homestead more sustainable and
Oh,
working.
nice.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing a little more about your, what your military life was like? Marine Corps, that's pretty badass. What made you choose Marine Corps over the other branches?
Well, they're the best. And my mother was a Marine. My father was a Marine. My grandfather fought in the Korean War. He was drafted into the Army. And I've got 2 uncles that served from my mom's side, and I've got an uncle on my dad's side that served. My little brother was in the Navy, so it just runs in the family. And the Marine Corps is where I met my husband. So we've been
Oh,
happily married. It'll be 9 years in just a couple months.
oh
So
my gosh.
we're definitely, we set ourselves up for success. So that was great. As far as life in the military, it's a lot of routine and a lot of uncertainty. And I know that the two don't really make sense that go together, but every day you knew what you had to do unless something changed, and that happened more often than you would think it would.
Oh my gosh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So.
Did you get? Oh, go ahead.
No, that's fine. Yeah, it's just been. I met great people. I learned a lot. I saw some incredible places. I saw some not so great places. I don't have any combat experience. Sadly, you definitely don't join the Marine Corps to not get into the fight. But
Yeah,
I
I was gonna say.
still did other things, different humanitarian stuff and everything like that. So no combat deployments, but lots of other stuff that happened.
So you're
So
probably. Oh, sorry. Keep
no,
it.
you're fine.
So when you but when you do boot camp, right, you are expected to, carry the heavy bag of gear, learn how to use and clean weapons and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah, that's definitely part of it.
And then after that, what did they have everybody take like a questionnaire like you did back in junior high and high school where you go, um, it based on your results, we think you would fit best doing such and such career or this and this career.
Nope. So you do that before you join boot camp. You before you go to boot, and it's the same for all branches. It's called your Asvab. You take that.
Yeah.
You take that. Whatever your score is, they take that into consideration, and then you sit down and talk about what it is you want to do, and they try and find. We call it an MOS, your military occupational specialty. We in the Marine Corps, the different branches have different names for it. Like the Navy calls it a rate. But you basically sit down with the recruiter and you tell them what you want to do, what you're interested in. They try and find an MOS that aligns to that or as close to it as possible. And then there are certain openings, depending on what MOS you enlist for. There are certain times that you can actually go to boot camp, because once you get done with boot camp, you go to combat training. And so boot camp is 3 months long. Combat training is a month long. And then after that, you go to your first MOS school. We've got what's called A school and C school. And that can be anywhere from 3 months to a year and a half, depending on what you signed up for. But your ASVAB and all of that is decided before you sign up. And then if you make it through boot camp, you are officially slotted into that MOS.
Oh, so were they willing to work with you in trying to get you as close to your goal as possible?
Yeah, it's hard. Like, I went in not really knowing what I wanted to do, so I actually went in open contract. And then what happens with that is they stick you wherever they need you. and it ended up working out for me. It doesn't work out well for a lot of people. I don't recommend people going in open contract because even if you do get the MO, so say you want it, like a lot of guys want to do infantry, but infantry is always packed out for like months.
Really?
So yeah. So they're like, okay, well, we can go open contract, and then after boot camp, they might be able to like slot you for the infantry MOS, whatever it was, 03, whatever. But a lot of times that's how we end up. That like a lot of people end up as like cooks or in the culinary part of it, which is something that maybe they didn't want to do or weren't anticipating doing. And so it's kind of a gamble when you go open contract. You might get what you want and you might not.
Right. Wow. That's a trip. Why, can you speak to why the interest in infantry? I mean, doesn't that ultimately lead to being on the front lines in the event, heaven forbid, you get involved in a war?
Generally speaking, yeah. The ground pounders are definitely the ones on the front lines, but I mean that's what guys generally want to. I mean, there are even some girls want to hit the front lines, but you get to shoot the coolest weapons, and you get the most fire training for sure if you're in infantry.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's anytime that I was able to go to the range or get any kind of weapons training in, I jumped at it because it's so much fun. It really is. And you know, if you want to shoot things and blow things up, I mean, infantry is where you go. that is where you go. EOD is you got to make it to your second enlistment. So there's different contract lengths. You can do a 3, 4, 5, and they even have a 6-year contract depending on the MOS. And that also is dependent on how long your A school and C school are, how long your specific MOS training are. So if you can make it to your second enlistment, you can lat move or train up to go to EOD. So those are the bomb techs. The
bomb. Oh, all right. The ones who not only can disarm a bomb in by hand, but also can navigate the robots.
Yep, that's them. So, that's the boys all want to play with the bang bangs and the pew pews. That's where they go. It's a great time. And the infantry guys are like all Marines are. Right, like every Marine or rifleman is something that a lot of people have heard, but it's true. Like you all have to qualify on the range a minimum once a year. You have to keep up with your weapons training and stuff like that because you never know when you're going to be the one that needs to hold the line. So that's something that everybody has to do. But it's the infantry guys. So when I was talking about combat training. The infantry guys is like where everybody else has a month, they've got another 3 months basically.
Oh, wow.
So and then it's their whole MOS is basically just to stay in shape and blow things up. And I'm massively simplifying it because obviously there's still a lot of technical and knowledge based stuff that you need to do to be an infantry. But we'll just break it down to that.
Yeah.
And it's but they are some of the most hilarious and raunchiest dudes you will ever meet in your life. They have, but you gotta have dark humor when you're in a position like that because if you don't laugh, so a lot of people hear the saying, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. It's if you don't laugh, you die because you got to get through some insanely stressful situations and some you see some stuff that will definitely send you into shock. And so if you can't find that foothold to sort of pull you up and pull you out, and which is usually humor, you got to try and make light of a heavy situation so that it doesn't pull you down with it.
Yeah.
That definitely contributes to their type of humor, for sure.
Did you happen to, when you first joined, have that kind of humor, sense of humor to begin with? So easily related, or was it something that kind of grew on you, that type of humor?
I had a sense of humor. It definitely got broader when I joined. After I joined, it had to, for sure. There is definitely a there's a curve. There's a learning curve, and you just sort of roll with it because at first you're like, do we really does it have to be like this? Do you have to do it this way? But then you realize what they go through and what they see and how hard you have to actually endure and put. That's what I'm saying. You go in thinking you know all of this stuff, especially because I grew up listening to my family talk about it, and you've got all of these military movies. One of my favorites is Heartbreak Ridge, and you're like, oh, I know what to expect. And it's a totally different beast when you're actually in it and when you've been through it. There's some of the guys I haven't talked to in a couple of years. I know that if I called them up right now and asked for their help, they would drop everything and they'd be there.
Yeah.
I've got a couple battle buddies like that. One, she lives up, she's halfway across the country, and I'd drop everything for her and she'd drop everything for me, and that's just kind of how it goes. It's
There's a deep camaraderie.
Oh yeah.
You literally do become family.
Yep.
Do you think that all the stories that your family members told you helped or prepared you in any way for what you would later come to experience firsthand?
Yeah. I definitely went in expecting to get screamed at and to be broken down mentally. Even though you know what's going to happen, oh man, let me tell you something. Marine Corps drill instructors are very, very, very effective and good at their jobs. They even though this is what they're going to do, anybody who tells me I would have joined, but I wouldn't let a drill instructor get in my face, I would punch him in the face. Be like, okay, yeah, prove it. Prove it. Oh man, some of my drill instructors, they were, to this day, I look back and I'm not really sure how I survived their wrath. It was just insane. They seemed to be everywhere all at once. So there was a stretch there. I think I had 7 DIs at one time they were in our squad bay for, I think there were 7 of them, and it was just hellfire and fury, and I was like, oh my god. Just
7 DIs. What does DI stand for?
Drill instructor.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So the Marine Corps has drill instructors. Definitely don't call them drill sergeant. I learned that on day 1. I slipped and said drill sergeant. It didn't go well for me. That's an Army thing. That is not a Marine Corps. They are drill instructors.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Did you end up doing 200 push-ups right then and there?
No, I made sugar cookies.
Do you mean literal sugar cookies, or is
Nope.
that a metaphor for something?
Nope. My drill instructor smiled at me and said, "Okay, we're gonna go make sugar cookies," and I had no idea what she was talking about. And then all of a sudden, there are 6 of us being screamed down the stairs outside at 04:15, and we go out into the sand pit, and you basically just you have to make a perfect circle with your body. You know how you make a snow angel?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you've got to make a perfect circle in the sand, and it gets everywhere. It's in your clothes, it's in your hair, it's in your ears, it's everywhere. And then you get up, and if it's not perfect, they stomp through it, and you start over. And I think we were out there for it felt like forever, but I think we were out there for an hour and a half just making sugar cookies. And I came in, and I just had a layer of sand everywhere. So all females train at Parris Island. So there's two training depots. You have Parris Island and you have San Diego. And so because there are so few females that join the Marine Corps, we all train no matter where you're at no matter where you're from in the country, you go to Parris Island.
Where's that? Is that off
South Carolina? Yeah. Parris Island's in South Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina. All right.
Yeah. And then there is the MCRD, Marine Corps Recruit Training Depot, Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego. So half the males go train. If you live west of the Mississippi, and you're a male, you go to San Diego. And if you live east of the Mississippi, you go to Parris Island. So the males split, but all the females go train at Parris Island. And it's very humid. And it also gets very cold. Which is shocking because it's South Carolina, but I think it got down to like 2 degrees at one point. It was frigid.
Gosh.
I was from up north, so it wasn't terrible for me. I was used to it. Like, I grew up in like negative 40-degree weather, so I was fine. But all these girls who were from like Florida and Texas, they were like, "What is this?" And I said, "I don't know. I didn't think it was supposed to get this cold here." But yeah, we ended up having some of the coldest training days on record. I can't remember if it was it 2 degrees? I can't remember how cold it actually got.
That's pretty impressive. During the coldest.
Yeah, but I don't think it actually dropped that low. I honestly think the drill instructors were lying to us because I don't think they would have had us outside if it was 2 degrees. Actually, they may have. I don't know. Every climate place, it is what it is. But yeah, no, it was it was the most fun I never want to have again.
The sugar cookies, is it technically possible to make a perfect circle? Because, I mean, aren't the legs significantly longer than the arms?
Yes, but I promise you, when you have to make like 1,000 sugar cookies, you figure out how to make a perfect circle. And in case there are any future Marines listening, I am not going to spoil how to do that. You have to figure it out on your own, because all I need is for you to tell your drill instructor that it was me that told you what to do, and then I promise you they'd come hunt me down and be like, oh, you want to spoil this? Okay, go make some sugar cookies.
Oh my God.
You figure out how to make a perfect circle.
And what was there a case where either you or one of your other fellow Marines completed it early, the perfect sugar cookie? And if that happened, if someone finished early, would they have to stand and wait for the rest of the team to? Nope.
There was no standing and waiting. Everybody better finish together, and everybody's better be a perfect circle, or everybody starts over.
Oh.
It's very much you learn how to rely and depend on each other and trust each other, because you end up in foxholes together. There's a good chance of that. So if you can't trust your brother to the left and right of you, you're not going to survive. That's the long and short of it.
That makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Since,
and if
go ahead. You go ahead.
I was, I talked to, like, my husband's got combat experience, and, some of the guys who've had, there was a first sergeant. He'd had, I think, like 6 deployments between Iraq and Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
And, he would tell us all the time, you have to figure out quick, what kind of person or what kind of Marine you are, because you're either going to be a Marine in that situation or you're going to be dead. So, yep. Lots of hard lessons learned very early in life.
So if I'm understanding correctly, you didn't get a chance to go into the combat training?
I did do combat training. I just never went into a combat zone. So you can still deploy and not go to a combat zone. You can do detachments, you can do deployments. It's always kind of a badge of shame. Like, if you're a Marine who never did a combat deployment, we all pretty much take that hard, because you didn't join the Marine Corps to not fight. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
If you wanted to not fight, you'd join the Air Force. I'm kidding. We all the branches give each other a hard time. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. We all give each other grief, but you definitely don't join the Marine Corps because you want to avoid the fight. That's for sure.
Right.
But that's just sort of how my career kind of unfolded. Was not in a combat zone.
Did you have any opportunities to not only use regular firearms, but rifles, machine guns, mounted artillery, tanks, helicopters?
So I didn't get to fire a tank, but I have got to fire my favorite weapon is the M203 grenade launcher. I love that weapon.
Grenade launcher?
And
Grenade launcher, nice.
Yes. It's people laugh at me when I say that I was surprisingly accurate with it, but like it's a grenade, so you don't have to be accurate with it. But if your goal is, you only have a certain effective range, like a certain kill radius and a certain like casualty radius, so you still need to hit your mark. But yeah, I got to play with this. I got to play with a saw. I got to play with an M203. I got to play with an AT4. I did not get to play with a tank. So that is something on my bucket list. I've gotten to work on tanks. I've gotten to be in tanks, but I have not got to fire a tank. And so I'm just going to go buy myself a tank one day so that I can go play with it.
Sounds like a plan.
Yes.
What about one of those Jeeps that has a machine gun mounted on the back?
Oh, you mean like an MRAT?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I did not get to no vehicle mounted weapons for me. Nothing like that. But I did get to do, like I said, the AT4, which is a rocket launcher. And it's not actually what. Yeah, we'll just say rocket launcher. But yeah, I think like the saw was a lot of fun. That's a machine gun. So I got to play with a lot of different weapons. I got to learn about a lot of different weapons, how to respect them, how to utilize them effectively. I've gotten to throw a few grenades in my day, not just with the M203, but actual like pull the pin and chunk it.
My goodness.
That's not actually how you do that. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun, and
Nice.
it definitely makes you focus and concentrate when you've got live munitions in your hand or on your person.
Oh yeah, you can't afford to screw that up.
Yeah, like I grew up around weapons like shotguns and pistols and rifles and whatnot, but it's a completely different story when when you have a grenade in your hand. That was a first for me. The first time I remember the first time I threw a grenade, I was like, this is so cool. And my weapons instructor was like, focus on what you're doing because that will kill you. And I was like, yes, ma'am.
For sure. That did you ever get to a point at which you could disassemble and reassemble a rifle blindfolded?
You can pretty much, like, honestly, with the amount of cleaning and care that they do on your rifle in boot camp, I think pretty much any of us could have done that. I know that I've never personally tried it. That is definitely more of a guy. The guys would do it all the time. They'd be in the common areas and they would like try and time themselves. But that was kind of their thing. So it was really more fun to watch. But I knew I was better than them anyway, so I didn't need to prove it. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But yeah, I've never tried. I'm sure I could do that right now, honestly. If I gave it a go, it'd probably be clunky and clumsy, but practice makes perfect. So.
All right. Obviously, you don't have to answer any question you don't feel comfortable answering, but I was curious. You met your husband in the military, in the Marines?
Yeah.
Was that kind of a rough situation? I imagine they discourage that at every point. Or was it something where you just happened upon each other and then you would meet in your off time?
Yeah, no. we didn't have the same chain of command, so it didn't have any conflict of interest. And we would just meet up on our liberty time if it happened to overlap. Sometimes I'd be on nights and he'd be on days, or vice versa, or he'd be swing shift, or he'd be on a detachment, or I'd be on a detachment. So, especially with both of us being active duty, there was we spent more time apart than we did together in the first half of our marriage, just because that was the way that it worked.
That must have been
challenging. But yeah, then we figured it out. So.
Cool. Yeah, that had to be challenging being apart for such long periods of time.
Definitely, it had its pros and its cons for sure.
Did you imagine before you started getting involved that if you were going to fall in love, it would have to be with a Marine specifically, as opposed to someone from another branch?
So the thing is, and I'm not sure why there's this misconception, but it's really actually hard to date anybody outside of not even just the military, but the Marine Corps. It is actually hard for female Marines to date anybody outside of the Marine Corps, and I'm not really sure why. There seems to be this misconception that either we're, I don't know, too strong-willed, or it would like threaten their masculinity. But quite frankly, like, you know, one of my best friends, she married a Navy SEAL, and he kick my ass 10 ways to Sunday without breaking a sweat. So, you know, I've got another friend, she dated a firefighter for about 3 years, but he actually ended up passing away in a fire.
Oh, shoot.
So,
sorry.
Yeah, it's you know, so it's definitely possible, but it's not likely. Most of my other fellow female Marines, we all ended up marrying male Marines for the most part. They seem to be the only ones that want to put up with us. I'll put it that way. I certainly didn't go into the Marine Corps being like, yeah, I'm going to find me a husband. I went in and I was like, I'm going to just shoot stuff and it's going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I'm going to be the first female commandant of the Marine Corps. You have to be an officer for that, by the way. You can't enlist and do that. So that was my boo-boo. Yeah, I was like, well, then I'll just be the first sergeant major of the Marine Corps. But then I wanted to be more of a mechanic, and yeah. But it was all good. Like I said, you figure stuff out quick. You learn a lot real fast, because if you don't, you're going to get left behind. But I had some great leadership. I had some not so great leadership too, but I learned a lot from them too, like specifically not how to treat other people, because eventually you pick up rank and you end up having, you know, your lower enlisted, your junior enlisted underneath you, and you've got to give them direction and guidance. And so I had some pretty terrible leadership at one point, and I swore up and down that I was never going to be that way. So it was definitely something that helped.
In this life, it's like, as uncomfortable as it may be in the moment, every interaction you have with anyone else can be a learning experience.
Absolutely.
Good experiences and bad experiences. And, you know, you just make the most of it, and you learn from them and decide what you feel is the right way to treat others.
Absolutely.
Now, Rosetta Allen pops in and says, "There are my guys. Just hopping in to say hi before I go on air. Love to see G."
Hi. How are you, gorgeous?
Yeah, pretty sweet stuff. You touched on what your thoughts were before, you know, what you thought you knew before you joined, and then later what it was really like and it was kind of like a wake-up call, as it is for most people. Do you think that do you have any feelings one way or the other as to whether you think there should be some sort of mandatory draft? As soon as maybe students get out of high school, maybe that everyone be required to join the military to like get that wake up call, or do you think it's something that's best left as an option?
So this is kind of a touchy subject for a lot of people, but in my personal opinion, I think the reason that our military is so effective and it is so good is because the ones who are there are the people who want to be there. It's because it's not a mandatory service. You don't have a lot of. You still get some of the. So we call it the 10-80-10. I know people say, oh, 80-20. It's not the same thing. So you've got your 10, your 80, and your 10. You have your top 10%, which are just like the phenomenal go-getters. Like they are everything you want to aspire to be. You got the other 80% who are. They are Marines. They know what they're doing. They're good at their job. They maybe aren't like tippy top of the Marine culture, but they definitely have that ethos in them. They embody what it is to be a Marine, and they have that potential to become that top 10% if through hard work, dedication. And then you have your other 10%, and so those are the bottom 10%. They're the ones who are sort of entitled, kind of lazy. They would rather take credit for other people's work than do the work on their own, stuff like that. So you still come across that in the military, but it's not as pronounced because that type of mentality and attitude doesn't usually survive. Definitely not past the first enlistment in general. But if you start making it a mandatory service, you're going to see that a lot more, and it's going to affect the quality of the Marine, the soldier, the sailor, the airman, the Coast Guardsman. You end up with these people who are there that don't want to be there. So I think that some form of regiment training like that is definitely something that everybody could use and needs in their life, but it's something that they have to arrive at on their own, because what I think is best for everybody is not necessarily true. And so I would much rather be next to someone I know wants to be there, even though you're in the suck, because everything just sucks. But so even though you're in the suck, like the people you're with can definitely make it not suck. And if you're with someone who chose to sign up, they're going to have that same, more than likely, they're going to have that same drive and mentality to help, lift you up, you lift them up, and you get it done, you get the job done. Whereas if you've got that person who doesn't want to be there, doesn't really care, and becomes complacent, that's when accidents happen. That's when fatalities happen. It's never a good situation. So that's personally how I feel about it.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. It makes a whole lot of sense. It would be interesting if they provided that sort of regiment training in like a technical school.
Yeah.
You got schools that teach you mechanics, you got those that teach you welding, but if they had an option, another school, if you will, a technical training program that taught you that kind of stuff, just maybe to also help those young kids who are kind of on the fence as to what they want to do with their life.
Yeah.
Maybe that would help them better focus on what they might do, be it join the military or focus on something blue collar or white collar civilian job, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
When you were like, well, either before or during your active duty, were you into stuff like pop culture?
Yes. Very much so.
What did you grow up on? What were you interested in?
So I blame my mother. No, I grew up on the Star Wars original trilogy, Star Trek,
Nice.
Indiana Jones. I My gosh, I read everything I could get my hands on. Lord of the Rings. I think I was in 6th grade when I read that. Great Expectations. I was in 5th grade. Harry Potter, of course. And then I love MASH and
Oh yeah, that was a fun
yeah,
series.
yes, there was MASH. Like I said, Heartbreak Ridge is one of my favorite films of all time. Um, gosh, and then my music was AC/DC, Poison, Led Zeppelin.
80s rock bands.
Very much so. 80s hair bands, 80s rock bands. I definitely did get on with the Spice Girls because I was that age, and so you had you had the Spice Girls too. But yeah, and then I grew up on old cartoons like the Jetsons and Flintstones, and um, it was fun. It was a good way to grow up,
Oh yeah, heck
for
yeah.
sure. So yeah.
Entertainment wise, yeah, that's basically what I grew up with too. It was one of the best uh, generations in entertainment, I think.
I would have to agree with that, for sure. There's just it aged well. Like it still carries over and it's timeless. It wasn't trying to be relevant for the time. It was just trying to make they were just trying to make good shows. They were just trying to make good films.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent many, many, many hours, probably too many hours, in front of the TV during those years. I think you touched on this. Johnny Rando asks, "What is the best war movie?" In my opinion, it's Das Boot.
Das Boot. That is a good one, Johnny Rando. Oh my gosh. So my person, I mean, I obviously have some bias. If I had to pick the best war film for me personally, Full Metal Jacket
Oh, good
would
one.
probably be the best war movie. It's just it. I mean, it is the quintessential Marine Corps movie, the Marine Corps war movie, I guess. But if I had to pick one that was, I mean, Bridge Over River Kwai is really good. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to stick with Full Metal Jacket. But there are great ones. I mean, you've got Platoon, you have Apocalypse Now, you've got Saving Private Ryan. Dunkirk just came out. That film was fantastic.
Was it nice?
Yes. Das Boot is a great one for sure. And then, oh man, you have it's an older one. Like, and when I say older, I mean like way old. It's All Quiet on the Western Front.
Oh,
Hello, Sir Talks a Lot. Yeah,
what?
but it's All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah.
Is more about, so a lot of war movies that people think of nowadays, and for good reason, are World War II films and Vietnam films. Like, I mean, you could technically say Rambo is a war film. It's more of an internal war as opposed to he's dealing with coming back from Vietnam.
Yeah, PTSD.
Yeah, so a lot of war films really focus on World War II and Vietnam, and with good reason. But All Quiet on the Western Front is a great World War I film. Yes, We Were Soldiers is also amazing, for sure, WyzGyz. Yes, 100%. You know, and then you have just your sort of oh man, there's just so many good ones. Hacksaw Ridge is another really good one. I'm pretty sure that I think that one's World War II though. Like I'm just trying to go through a list of war movies in my head. I've seen so many. The yes, Steel Helmet is a wonderful old school war movie. There's so many like I know that I know specifically like pop culture wise, Pearl Harbor was one that got a lot of attention, and I think that was because it focused less on the war and more on I don't want to say it was really the romance, but Pearl Harbor the movie definitely was more it spoke more to normies, and I think it was because it was less heavy on the war aspect of it.
Was it with Ben Affleck?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So that's the one with Ben Affleck, and it's not a bad film, but I think that it definitely. I know that they reference the lives lost at Pearl Harbor and the survivors and everything like that, but I think the reason it really spoke to normies is because it started out like a normal romance movie would. Boy meets girl, boy falls for girl, boy does everything he can to impress and get with the girl, you know, and then all of a sudden he volunteers to go off to war and like she's devastated, everybody's just crushed, they think he dies, and you know, I think because you had all of that build up and you invested in the characters, I think that's why it spoke more to normies. I don't think it was. I know a lot of normies think it's a really great film, but I don't think that it is as good as, you know, like All Quiet on the Western Front or Hacksaw Ridge or anything like that.
Gotcha. Sir Talks a Lot says Pearl Harbor was overrated in my opinion. Saving Private Ryan showed more emotion.
Definitely, I would definitely say that. Like I said, it was more of a romance movie, similar to Titanic. You know, you got invested in the relationship, the love relationship of the characters, and the actual tragedy of the Titanic was really not the focus of the film. Like it still obviously was a huge part of it. That's the whole reason you had the film. Same thing with Pearl Harbor, but the way that it was approached, it spoke more to normies than it would say a history buff or an enthusiast or, you know, someone who's really into pop culture or is you know, like with Pearl Harbor where they would be more of a war buff or stuff like that.
Right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but in Saving Private Ryan, wasn't there a scene where Tom Hanks's character was coming up on shore during the battle, and then he takes a moment to take off his helmet?
Yes.
Do you think that moment, that scene, was realistic? I mean, my first reaction was, why are you taking off your helmet if there's all this bloodshed? Shouldn't you stay down and keep your helmet on until you're absolutely positively sure without a doubt that you're out of harm's way for the time being?
So you have something called the fog of war, and it clouds your judgment. I think it was realistic. You know, I was talking about how you have to have that dark sense of humor to make light of a dark situation so it doesn't pull you down.
Mm-hmm.
If it does pull you down and you can't snap back, you'll go into shock. You won't start thinking. You won't be thinking clearly. There's gonna be things that you'd be like, oh, I'd never do that, but you end up doing it, or you know, you look at someone like, well, I wouldn't do that if I was in that situation. It's very easy to Monday morning quarterback when you're not there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So I don't think had he been, I think that it would just became overwhelming. And, you know,
Yeah, you'd
we
have.
all say that we would never do it, but unless you're there, you know, it's, there was a lot of things that a lot of those men said they'd never do that they ended up doing. So
Yeah, absolutely.
it's, it's hard. It's not, war is not, people, I believe, have gotten disillusioned because even Hollywood can't capture really what war is like.
Mhm.
You don't know what it's like to hear your, you know, your battle buddy screaming for his life next to you. You don't know what it's like to watch the life leave their eyes. You actually see the soul disappear behind it, and there's nothing you can do. It's it's not it's not something that you can really translate to a screen. Yep.
I imagine so. Even the most hardened soldier falls victim to the fog.
That they do. That's why you have a battle buddy. You guys got to pull each other out. But
And did you say it was called the fog of war?
yes.
Uh, it made me jump back to my thoughts on computer gaming, and it seems like they're misusing the phrase, because whenever I see fog of war referenced, like in I don't know if you've ever played Warcraft from
Yes.
Blizzard. Uh, it more so represents in the game, oftentimes, of what immediate area you have visibility of. You don't know what has yet to be explored.
Nope, that's true too. That's the physical aspect of it.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, especially if it's early morning and you've got mist or you've got fog or you've got dew, and then you're firing all these weapons, and so now you've got smoke and you've got spent rounds hitting the ground, and you have screams and you have orders being shouted. It all attributes to the fog of war. So you have the physical fog of war where you can't really get your bearings, you're not really sure where you're at, it's hard to see in front of you, but that also translates to the fog of war in the mind, which
Okay.
if you get lost in that fog, you definitely need a battle buddy to pull you out.
Wow, jeez, I'm learning so much.
I'm glad I'm not boring you.
Oh no, not in the slightest. What would you and everyone in chat say is the worst war movie?
The worst war movie?
Has anyone taken the time to think about what might be the worst war movie? Maybe the most inaccurate, the most, the furthest from true to life, where they threw everything out the window. I mean, would you even consider something like G.I. Joe or Tropic Thunder in those categories?
So Tropic Thunder is actually hilarious. Most of us actually enjoyed Tropic Thunder. As far as the worst depiction of it, I guess I don't know. I guess I would have to say, yeah, I honestly, I'm trying to think. I know I've seen some war movies where I was just sort of turned off, but
is it possible that war movies as a whole are at the worst decent, but you go from decent or better?
I think that's possible. I know that there's going to be bad war films out there. If I had to, I mean, you know, because you have films like you have war films that are just above, like so far above anything you expected, like Steel Helmet, Full Metal Jacket, Das Boot. You know, the the Windtalkers. I mean, there's so many great ones. I think that Inglorious Bastards, that one with Brad Pitt,
Yeah.
would probably be. I think they were going for the right tone. It's just for me personally, they missed the mark.
Wasn't that one of those movies where they were trying to tell a kind of Elseworld story?
I think so. It was one that I actually had to start a couple of times before I finally actually got through it. It's World War II, and you're like, oh, it's to assassinate Nazi leaders, and it's Jewish soldiers. There we go. So you're like, this should be really intriguing and really good. And I know a lot of people love it, and it's just not. I think it even won like a lot of awards, or at least got nominated for a lot of awards, but it just didn't quite hit the nail on the head for me.
Gotcha.
If I had to be honest.
Gotcha. Excuse me. I know we're running out of time. So you had an early appreciation for good entertainment, and then you went to the military. I presume you must have had to have partaken in some entertainment. Maybe you collected comic books. Maybe you were into G.I. Joe like Richard C. Meyer, aka your boy Zach. What did you basically continue enjoying various forms of entertainment, maybe even to get your mind off the military from time to time?
Yes, escapism was vital to your mental health, particularly when you're on a boat. So it's a Navy ship, but when you're on a boat and there's nothing to do, there's no signal, there's no nothing. Like, you better have books, you better have some physical entertainment. You better have a DVD player with some DVDs. You better have some books. You better have some comics. You better have something. Because you can only escape into your own mind and your own imagination so much. And if you don't have that mental escape, because you can't physically escape. Like, it's not like you can just go do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to have that brief escapism. If it's for 30 minutes a day, if it's for maybe 2 hours a day, whatever it may be, you need that brief respite from everything else that's going on.
Do you envision perhaps one day, or might you be working on writing your own novel or even comic book?
So I'm actually almost done with a trilogy that I don't know if I want to publish or not, but it was just something more for me than anybody else. So I may unleash that on the world and see what everybody thinks, and I may not.
Oh man, that would be so cool. That would be so cool. And I know nothing about it, but I'm already excited.
Well, if it ever goes out yonder, I will certainly let you know.
Right on. Exclusive. So, in these last few minutes we have together, can you go elaborate a little bit on, how you got into following, watching more YouTube, getting into participating in the chats.
I got really sick and tired of what Hollywood was putting out. So when I I remember being so excited to go see Force Awakens and just so ready for Star Wars to continue. And I was like, Disney has all this money. They have the resources to. Thanks, Sir Talks a Lot. They have all these resources to really do it justice, and so I'm really hopeful, especially because KK was handpicked by George Lucas. I can't wait to see what they do, and they lost me within the first 20 minutes of the film. I was willing to sort of let Rey be this enigma, and I really thought that Finn was going to be the Jedi. I really did, or maybe both of them at some point.
I think most people did.
Yeah. But where they lost me was something that I actually haven't seen elaborate a lot on, and maybe it is just because of my background, but I can if you want to give everybody else on that planet a pass for not knowing what the YT-1300 was and what that's the model of the Millennium Falcon. If you want to say that, sure. We can let everybody else on that planet give them a pass. But there's no way and there's no reason that Finn, who has been apparently was kidnapped at birth and bred into the First Order, which is run by Kylo Ren, who would know that his father's ship is a YT-1300. And so one of the things that in order to successfully train troops, an army, a military, a legion, whatever it is, you need to have fixation points. There has to be specific symbols. There has to be specific specific symbols that this is the enemy. This is what you reference the enemy. The Millennium Falcon was both the rebellion and the alliance. It was, that symbol, and it was something that obviously Kylo was going to hate because it was his father's ship. And I mean, there's no way that through the training, like that would have been regimented in their training, that this is the YT-1300, all of this model of ship is going to be captured or destroyed because this is a symbol of the rebellion. This is a symbol of the alliance. This goes against everything the First Order stands for. This is the enemy. And so there's no conceivable way that Finn should not have known what he was looking at when he saw it. So that's where they lost me. When they called the Millennium Falcon trash and Finn did not know what it was.
Yeah, that was insane. That's a very good point. I mean, I was kind of blown away by how, the sequel was supposed to start, a number of years after Return of the Jedi, if I remember.
Like 30 or 40 years or something.
But still, wouldn't you think in the digital history that's recorded that everyone and their grandmother would know who, the trio were?
Yes.
Han, Luke, and Leia.
Yeah.
It's like, how could legends have been forgotten in such a short period of time? It's like with Ghostbusters 2016. Well, no, actually, Ghostbusters, the new remake they're going to do. It's like the descendants of Egon, his kids or grandkids, maybe kids. They go to school and nobody in class but the teacher seems to remember anything about that. And you'd think, it was Cecil Says who pointed out, they would have been raised up as heroes for saving New York City from these ghostly apparitions. That's not something you easily forget, and that's not going to be recorded in the history books. And that's the same way I felt for Star Wars. It was so bizarre.
Yeah, but that's because these directors and these creatives, if that's what you want to call them, and these writers, they don't think of the longevity of the established characters. They only care about utilizing the platform for their message. And it's not even a story, it's an agenda, it's a message. And that's part of the problem. Like I said, I was raised on Flintstones, Jetsons, old, the classic Scooby-Doo, the Batman animated universe. I mean, gargoyles, all kinds of stuff. I never really got into SpongeBob or anything like that, but the thing that all of those had in common, they're still watchable today because they focused on stories. They didn't focus on a message or relevance. They focused on the story. And that's something that has gotten lost.
Oh, yeah.
And it reflects in their writing.
In a big way. Do you think Daisy Ridley deserves a chance to continue her career? It was kind of ruined by Return of Skywalker.
Yes, I do. I think that Daisy Ridley did the best she could with what she had. She didn't write her character. She didn't make herself all powerful. She did what JJ and RJ instructed her to do. She, I've seen her in some other things, and even, you could argue in Force Awakens, she played the reluctant, not really hero, but the reluctant traveler somewhat well. But the plot holes aren't her fault. The story isn't her fault. The themes aren't her fault. None of this lands on Daisy. It's not like Daisy was handed a script made of platinum and completely destroyed the character on her own. Mm-hmm. This is something that, I think if any of us had been approached by Disney and they had asked, would you like to be in the new Star Wars film? We all would have jumped at it because it means something to us. We all loved it. And so when they hand us, even Mark Hamill, when they handed him the Last Jedi script, he said, you don't understand Luke at all. I don't agree with how you've written the character. But he has to do what is in front of him. He can do the best he can with what he has. And so it's the same thing with Daisy Ridley, same thing with John Boyega. It's for all of the actors, they are simply doing what they can with what they have. And I think Daisy, I think Miss Ridley has great acting chops. I think that she can do a lot if she's just given the opportunity to do it. So I know that article came out where she wasn't getting any jobs after The Rise of Skywalker, and it was hard for her. And I think that that's unfair, because if anybody should have a hard time finding a job, it should be J.J. Abrams. It should be Rian Johnson. It shouldn't be the actors that they pulled down with them.
Yep.
So I think, Kelly Marie Tran, when you see her in The Last Jedi, you're like, why is this person even here? Like, they really serve no purpose for the plot. They're kind of just, they feel more like a forced insert. And then Rian Johnson admitted that it was a forced insert. And so that's why she never really fell into place. And all of the bullying, they basically put her in a potato sack and gave her no personality. Mm-hmm. But then when you hear Kelly Marie Tran in an interview, she is absolutely gorgeous inside and out. She has character, she has charisma, she can do a lot.
She's very lovely too.
It's not their fault that they were hoping for one thing and they had to deliver something else.
Yeah, forced identity politics.
Yeah.
Make entertainment entertaining again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I have stayed a bit long. I do have to run.
Yep. You got the floor. Would you do the honors and share how people can find you on social media? Sure.
You can find me on Parler. You can find me on Twitter. I have an Instagram that apparently I need to start using. It's LadyGravemaster for all of the social media. I have one video on my channel on YouTube. I'm going to start uploading more. I have found the topic for my next video, so that should be out in the next couple of days, probably after Friday Night Tights, so that I can spend some time working on it, but we'll see how quick I get everything done. But, per usual, make sure that you subscribe to WyzGyz. Stone Loki is a great one. Of course, Nerdrotics, Doomcock, Geeks and Gamers, Odin's Movie Blog, Comics Division. Midnight's Edge. It's all, they're all great. There's a lot of great content here on YouTube that is the escapism that we have been begging for from Hollywood that they refuse to give us.
Oh yeah, it's one of those cases where if excuse me, if Hollywood won't do it, then we're just gonna have to create it ourselves.
Absolutely. So I want to thank you all for stopping by. I hope I didn't bore any of you too much. WyzGyz, thank you so much for having me. It was an honor.
Oh, it's been a great, great honor and pleasure.
Well, thank you.
You are always welcome on the channel. You're freaking awesome. Excuse me. And man, you're already at like 901 subs on your YouTube
Oh
channel.
my gosh. I blame the cuties. So my one video is a cuties video, and it just it just blew up. I couldn't believe that I had 5,000 views on my only video. But this just shows you that normies are starting to, like, people are paying attention. They don't want what is being shoved down our throats. So hopefully, I continue to grow and do you guys proud. And
Hell yeah.
I appreciate all of you very, very much. So
Yeah.
I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Yeah. Mr. Talks a Lot says, have a wonderful day. Johnny Rando says, cool, relaxed interview. Great job. Take care, all.
You too, Johnny Rando.
Thank you so much for coming. You can reach me on WyzGyz Tweets on Twitter, WyzGyz Twitches on Twitch, WyzGyz Parlays on Parler, WyzGyz Entertainment on YouTube and Facebook. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks to everyone in chat. Thanks for all your questions and comments. Thanks to everyone who watches this on replay. And thanks to our very, very special guest, new friend, LadyGravemaster.
Thank you.
All right. We are ending the broadcast in 3, 2,